kind of starting here. This was the welcome music that was, so the choir from the cathedral that's near the diocese office was here at the airport, the Kilimanjaro airport, to meet us at like 10 o'clock at night. And they're singing this. So if you can think about airports and the fact that we're inside the parking lot here, so somebody knew somebody to get this to be able to happen. But you're going to hear a lot of music, and I'm going to be telling tales about what happened to me, my trip, and how it all worked out. And I intended to start at 10 because I have, so sorry for PowerPoint overload, I know what that is, but there are tons of pictures and tons of things, and that's just how I'm doing. I'm just kind of warming up.
You don't need any introduction, you'll introduce yourself.
Yeah.
One of those days.
I think a couple people here know me. Yeah.
Where did you get all these people?
I'm blaming Jenny.
Welcome, all of you. I'm Pastor Meredith, and I am so glad that Andy was the one who went to Africa. And so I do my African ministry from Wisconsin. So it's great to have you here. How fun is this? Wonderful crowd. So we're excited to hear what you have to share. Take it away.
Thank you. So I'm not going to keep playing. You'll hear bits and pieces of music because otherwise we'll be here all day. If you want to be here all day, we can do that another day. But I'm trying to give you an overview, and I have 75 minutes. So hopefully this will take us to the next slide. So sorry, I'm going to turn something here. Morning. There you go. Because I have, believe it or not, made some notes. So, in preparation for my trip, I did a lot of thinking and praying about what was going to happen, and I didn't know. So it was very, very interesting. So our church has had a partnership with a church in Tanzania for, it'll be 10 years in October as our anniversary of our relationship. And no one's been there since 2018. So I didn't have a lot of people to refer to find out about it. There was a lot of people from the synod that went, but not necessarily having the same experience as me. So I'm just trying to share as many things as I can, kind of the emotions that I felt. And one of the things that I felt a lot was I smiled a lot. So I was very happy. And the other thing is I was very open to being there. So I did not do some things that normally, if you're going on a trip, okay, I did bring my iPhone because I wanted to take pictures. But I typically was not very connected. So I didn't bring my iPad, I didn't bring my laptop, because I wanted to be a sponge, a human sponge as much as I could. And so that's kind of the starting point. And again, so the choir followed us to the rest house. And the rest house is where we stayed, and I think I just blocked the, here.
How many people were you with?
So we were with 17 people. And so again, lots of music everywhere we went. So there were 17 people here from. Here we go. So I wanted to start off really basic, right? And I had the same thought when we were talking about going there. So where is Tanzania? Good starting point. In fact, somebody asked me that this morning before we started. I said, well, we're going to talk about that. So it's on the eastern side of Africa. It's as far east as Moscow. So a lot of us have been to Europe. You're that far east. And it's on the Indian Ocean, just south of the equator. So we probably know things about Tanzania. Kilimanjaro, heard of that, right? Big mountain, biggest mountain in Africa. The Serengeti is there. Heard of that, right? That's the big place where all the animals hang out. Olduvai Gorge. Yes, no? So Olduvai Gorge was where Dr. Leakey was, and I remember hearing about this when I was in school. I probably had heard that. When I was in school, and that's where this doctor found the first sources of where humans developed. So there's a lot to Tanzania that we already know about, but it isn't real conscious with us. So it was an amazing trip. Traveled with 17 different people from the synod. So the bishop was there, 2 people from the bishop's office. There was 6 pastors that were with us, and our relationship with the Meru Diocese, or synod, is quite long. So we have a 25-year partnership with them, and we have an official covenant with the diocese. And that covenant says that we're praying for each other. It says that we're going to learn about each other by taking trips together, asking questions, and then we work on projects together. And our group here, the synod group is very active. There's a monthly meeting that I've been going to for the last couple of years, which has helped me kind of prepare for things. We've installed water projects where some of the communities were not getting fresh water, so we help them with that. We've done things with, we support their hospitals, orphanages, schools, as well as the individual churches. So it's a very active and dynamic relationship that we have with them. Yeah, I don't know. So, travel, it's a long trip. Not your easiest days. It took over 30 hours, from door to door to get to where we're going. So we went Milwaukee to Atlanta, Atlanta to Amsterdam, Amsterdam then to Mount Kilimanjaro Airport. So it was, all of our bags made it. We went as a mission trip, so we each got 3 check bags. And so there's a lot more bags than there are people there. And people brought a lot of things to give as gifts to both the diocese. We brought over-the-counter medications, blood pressure kits, all sorts of different things that we could take to give to them that they can't get as easily as we could get from here. I'm going to stop here just for 1 second. So if you have a question, stop.
Does anybody see a Green Bay jacket? Oh, hey, how are you?
All right.
We didn't want you going out without one, that's for sure.
Hey, all right. So we got in, it was like 10 o'clock at night. There's a bunch of singing, and we were kind of exhausted, but one of the things, so we had a snack first before we went to bed. I was hungry once in 2 weeks. Okay? So one of the things is a very generous people. Every time you show up to something, we're going to eat. And they also expect you, we kind of got in trouble a couple of times because, why don't you eat so much? Well, when you get 5 meals a day, you're not real hungry. And then this was the room that we stayed at. And so I shared a room with Alexander. Alexander is the president of Hepatha Church in Milwaukee. We do a lot of work with him through the furniture ministry. We also support him through lunches, taco lunches that we do from here and some other things. So we do a lot of work with that church. They're down at 18th and Locust. So he and I share this room, and you can see the mosquito netting over that. So we took lots of medications before and during just to make sure we wouldn't have a problem. We did see mosquitoes, but I was never bit. Alexander did get bit one night, but he didn't cover up, so no problem. But no, nothing out after that. I'm just going to make a quick comment on the snacks there. So on the juices on the right, they make them. So we're in the tropics. I'm going to talk a lot more about food as we get going, but fresh mango, avocados, pineapples, watermelon, all the time. So that was really cool. Starting to work. So this is a picture of our group. So for the rest house where we were staying, there were 17 of us. I think there was about 8 rooms there. So some of the people from our group had to stay at a separate hotel because they couldn't accommodate everybody there. This is a picture of our group. The gate there is on the right, and that goes into the compound where we were. You can see the lovely road in front of us there. And if you look real hard, coffee beans, believe it or not. There's some other steps in the process, but so it wasn't the easiest thing to do in the world, right?
Is there a lot of training involved in learning to grind the coffee?
Well, what I can tell you is that there was a man that took that paddle to grind the coffee, and one of the women took it away from him because he was making a mess. Because if you don't hit it right, you'll splash and lose beans.
So they do have quality control.
Yes.
And rhythm, you gotta have rhythm.
Yeah. So that was one day we went to those 2 different coffee facilities. When they grow the coffee beans, the plants are basically in wide rows, maybe they're 10 or 12 feet wide, and then on the edge of each of those are banana trees. And the banana trees are providing some shade for the coffee, which they prefer, and then they have 2 cash crops on site. We have, so I think one of the things that's really important about the coffee and the coffee project and what we've been doing. So coffee is a commodity, and commodity prices, so if we can think of a commodity product like eggs, supply, demand, what happens, right? So if you don't have supply, the price goes up. So this year, Brazil and Vietnam, the 2 largest coffee producers in the world, didn't know about Vietnam, had droughts. The coffee prices on the global market has gone from about $250 to about $350. So when the market was at like $250, the coffee project that we had, we would pay the farmers $250 for the coffee. And then based on the quality scores, we would give them another check. So they were getting a premium for their coffee. And what this has permitted the coffee farmers to do is they have more money. Now they're able to send their kids to universities and schools that they normally wouldn't do. And during our visit, we were able to talk with a couple of those children, they were 18, 20 years old, that could not express enough thanks for what we're doing. So these coffee farms and this project is really making a difference in lives over there, and it really has changed lives, and that's been a good thing. Yeah?
Are you going to tell us how we can help by buying coffee?
You bet.
Okay. You'll get to it, right? Okay.
So our coffee stand is right back there, so when
Okay.
we're done, we can
That's
sell
that
some
coffee.
coffee. Yeah. And it's actually, when I went to the store the other day, I was like, this isn't outrageously priced. So anyways, so then then we went to Arusha, and I threw in different pictures of different things that you see. So that's the vehicle. The center vehicle is the one that we were in. You regularly see people carrying things on their heads. That's the way that they travel. Well, if you're carrying a basket of bananas that weighs 30 or 40 pounds, you're not walking 2 miles with that, unless it's on your head. And that's how they move things around. And it's pretty common to see all along the roadsides, shops and stores, etc., where they're selling their goods. So it's a very transactional type of economy. We'll talk more about that. So we went to Arusha with specific intent. So Arusha is where the market is. And on the left-hand side, you can see the shop that we're at, where they had a lot of cloths. They do a lot of sewing right in those markets. And we bought cloths then to take to our partner parish as part of the offering routine. And it's a unique thing and experience, and we'll talk more about that. But going into that market, again, I didn't feel unsafe. I mean, I knew where all my stuff was, and it was with me, and I had it well protected, but I never felt like anyone was jostling me. Now, every time you walk past a shop, come on in, let me show you what I have, which is typical, but that's what it was. So Arusha, you go, okay, so where is Arusha? That clock tower, the little sign on the bottom says it's equidistance between Cairo and Cape Town. So that gives you another perspective of where things are at. After that, there was also another market we went to, which was where people were selling a lot of goods that they made themselves. So whether it was a shirt with Simba on it, or whether it was bracelets, or earrings, or clothing, we spent a little bit of time there.
Are things expensive? Would you buy as far as relatively speaking?
I would say not expensive. Not expensive. So the cloths that we would buy were probably $6 to $8 for 2 or 3 yards of fabric. Yeah.
What's your money?
They use, good question, they use Tanzanian shillings, and Tanzanian shilling, $1 will get you 2,500 of them. So you're doing a lot of math as people are saying things, but people will give you money. So now we had been in country for a couple of days, and now we get to go up to Selah. And so here's our partner, they were, so strangely enough, they were the first ones to come to pick us up at the rest house. So you see me, and then Michael MBC is, as of December, the new head of the partnership committee with us. And the person on the right is Emmanuel Katoy. So he's, I could tell a lot of story, but I'm not going to here. He was important in helping us getting around. So he actually lives in the US, he lives in Madison. He runs a non-for-profit organization that helps people get glasses in Tanzania. And they've already provided like 150,000, and they actually have an office here in Menominee Falls. So he's a great guy and has really helped quite a bit. And his dad happens to be the bishop. So we had some good connections, and if someone needed something, we get somebody important on the phone right away. So we're driving up, basically driving up the part of the mountain here. You can see that picture there on the left. So you can see the mountain clouded, Mount Meru kind of clouded there up on top. Here's the sign for Selah. So when somebody showed me a sign before, and I could see where it says Selah, that's where I saw Karatu, and then that's where I knew where it was. So Selah is part of the Mount Meru Diocese, and that is a picture, first one, didn't even get out of the car yet, of the church.
What language do they speak?
Swahili.
Okay, so you didn't understand how to communicate.
So it's amazing how much English people there know. It's amazing. It's beyond a second language. Actually, one of the kids there spoke better English than me. I mean, he could just have a discussion with me like nothing. And part of that is when we start looking at schools, you'll see everything's in English. And there was really some amazing moments with that. But yeah, the communication really wasn't a problem. Yep.
Good question. In regards to the glasses, is there anything we here can do to help out with that?
Yeah, I haven't, I have reached out to Emmanuel about that, but I haven't heard anything back yet. And actually, I've invited him here to meet with us to talk about that. So, sorry. It was great. Overwhelming, you know. The people were so friendly. So that's Alexander on the left in the picture there. They wouldn't, you know, you couldn't carry your own bag. Anywhere we went, it was like, no, I'm taking this for you. And it's like, well, no, it's just my bag. No, I'm taking it. So they're really, really helping to take care of us. And I think there might be, yeah. So that sound is very typical. Yep,
Andy, is that the inside of Salem Parish?
yes, yep,
The benches, the pews that are there that you see, Holy Cross, sent the money to buy the wood and have over there and have them made when I was over there
awesome,
in 2014.
okay.
And I was just, they're still looking very, very
Yeah,
good.
they're in good
And I
shape.
don't know if you have a picture of the altar.
Yeah, there will be some, yep,
The altar has a wooden cross that I carried in my suitcase from here that someone had made here, and we took it over and put it
Awesome.
on their altar.
yep. Yeah, there's, we have a good relationship with them today. Yeah, so Pastor Chris was there with us. After we generally met, then we had something to eat, as usual. And the normal things, so you'd have hard-boiled eggs, they'd have peanuts and cashews and watermelon, and depending on how far they went, you might have rice with some kind of a stew on top of it, and yeah. Look at that.
Something that's singing, is that,
Yeah,
is that have a meaning, or is this meaning for happy, love?
I think it was just a welcome. I never could understand all of it. So, Michael in BC is the partnership chair. He grew up at Selah. He went to the local grade school there, and there's pictures of that coming up. He is well known there, and he is, I told his wife, I said, he should be in politics. Because he was always out talking with people and schmoozing and stuff. Pastor Akoya, he is new there as of January 1st, so I hadn't met him or communicated with him before we got there. So it's pretty normal, every 1 to maybe 4 years, the pastors rotate. This is the third pastor that I've been talking to since I've started trying to communicate with them in the last 4 years. Pastor Coy has, he taught at a seminary for 12 years, and he has some very specific directions that he wants to take the congregation there. So his sermon the second Sunday was about, are you setting personal goals? Are you looking at what you can do with yourself? Because the area is not real wealthy. And so how can they change that? And that's what he was preaching about, which I thought was an interesting sermon to have. And you'll see lots of pictures of kids, because there's a lot of kids around.
Did they now preach in English?
No,
No.
no. So Michael sat next to me, and he would help me out with that. Whenever there was songs, open the music book, and the Swahili, you could read enough to be able to keep up with the words, and actually you'll see me singing later. A song that we all know. In there, please. There you go. So, after we had a meeting at Selah, then we went to visit our hosts. So we took the normal conventional means of travel and walked down the dirt road, and here's the entrance to their house. And that's me meeting Tessingura, who is the wife of the owner of the home. And so this is inside, so Kassangura and Nelson are in the middle there, and they had actually a really nice home compared to a lot of places. Not that everything was perfect, but I was hoping this was going to be my first warm, I didn't say hot, shower of the time I was there. It didn't work out. So this is so here's the front. Alexander, after we got there, they here have some juice. Just sit out back here and enjoy it. So you can see it back left of Alexander, the banana trees. On top right, these are the kitchen angels. There's more about them coming. And then here is a typical breakfast that we would have. So hard-boiled eggs, very, very prevalent in a lot of things that we ate and did. Nuts were there every day, and she made juices. It was really nice. So here's the church, Maryland, to kind of help you out with that from the back to the front. You didn't carry that big thing, did you?
Not the one up on the wall.
No. the one on top of the altar.
The one
Yeah.
that's on the altar.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, that one fits
Yep.
perfectly in the bottom of my suitcase.
So so this was before church, then at church, and I think, sorry, I don't know how to do this very well. Because you gotta see the kids singing. I love the little guy in the front, that's really interesting. So music was always present, all the services, lots of movement, lots of action, and it just made it fun to be there. So this kid on the right, on the bottom here, on the outside of this rack, that's their offerings. So they would have an offering envelope that they would use to put up. In the top was the first offering of Sunday. They do 2 offerings each Sunday, at least. Some churches do more. And then the bottom right was me presenting. So we took stoles from here, and I'm explaining about the partnership stole that we gave and how meaningful it was. So the partnership stole is actually a partnership stole with Hepatha and us, which was given. One was given to El Salvador, and then we taking this over there. So it was very meaningful because Alexander was there as well. So it really tied a lot of things together. And like I said, you can keep going on this stuff for a while. And then,
Andy, when was that? That looks so different than what we saw before. So was this a new structure or added on?
this is the existing structure.
Okay, it
Yeah.
is.
So this.
Well, I know that they didn't have backs, and we had given to their pews, and I know at one point we had given money for new pews, so.
Yep, and that's what Marilyn was.
Okay, I missed that, sorry. It looks really good.
And so there's a lot of celebrations. There's another video here, but I'm not going to play it because I keep kind of looking up at the clock and going, okay. And then in the bottom left, so not everybody has money. So for their offering, here's what they're giving. So what does the church do with the offering of corn or some fruit? They have an auction afterwards. And that's how they exchange it into money. So when I talked about picking up cloth in Arusha, so we did a couple of things with that. And then, so I'm gonna skip something before I go back here to the offerings, because I think there's more here. But after the service, the kids wanted to talk. So I came out and talked to the kids and asked them what do they like to play. And the boys like to play football, this kind of thing. And the girls like to play netball. Which I thought was interesting because I never saw any baskets there. So, and I never saw any, no nets anywhere, but, so that's what they like to play and do, and, so it's just fun. And you can see they're wearing all sorts of different things. Some of the kids in the choir, they had their choir, things on, and then Batman's there, and a few others. But clothing there is, interesting. Oh. This is their gospel acclamation. This goes on for 5 minutes. But they're ready to hear the news, right? All right, so I'll talk a little bit about the, I thought I had that here. Maybe, did I skip the slide?
These really went on compared to years ago.
Just now.
Sure better.
All right. So now I'm switching into themes and stuff. We'll go back to Selah later, and I'll see a lot more about Selah. But this isn't just the Selah area. These are pictures just were taken randomly throughout. So as people get started, they don't have a lot, and they'll start off with these wooden planks for their homes, and that's what they build to live. They'll have a fire inside so that they can cook, and I don't know about the other things. I'm guessing there's water that they can get. So if they're in Selah, there is water that comes down a stream that they capture and use for their water. Then as they progress, they can maybe put some mud or concrete onto some of the walls, and then they would build up to actually getting so that they have concrete block. So there are no mortgages there. So basically, if someone wants to move up in their housing, they save their money, and when they have enough, then they buy the supplies to be able to get to that next level.
Do they buy land?
They can buy land, yes. Yep. And I'm guessing that yes, and I'm guessing there's a little bit of squatting that goes on as well. So, considering where we were staying, it wasn't anything like that. So Nelson, where we had stayed, he had been working in the government for 34 years. He had worked in Dar es Salaam, which is where the government headquarters were at the time. And he had actually traveled in different parts of the world, working on transportation type issues. So he had some means with him. Okay, and how do they get around? So it was always interesting to me. So here's a woman carrying bananas, the buses. So you can see there's probably already people in that bus. And I've talked to people that have ridden on these things before. Probably not the most pleasant experience, but if you got to get from one place to another, that's what you do. These tricycles, always see them loaded up with stuff, and a lot of motorcycles. So there's always lots of traffic and lots of accidents. So economics. So now you're learning how I think and look about things, because you go, well, what's different? What's the same, right? So you want to go to a store. You're not going to Kmart. You're not going to Target. You're not going to Walmart. You're going down the street. So I didn't happen to pick out any pictures of shops with cloths and things, but I can tell you right now, if you want an Aaron Rodgers Packers jersey, they are there. Lots of, we saw them at least 3 different places. And it's interesting that was the jersey that I used, not
All from Wisconsin, sent for cheap.
Yep. But so lots of fresh fruits and vegetables, big part of the diet. You can see there's some fresh meat hanging there at the butcher in the bottom center. And just here's how people lived. And then a lot of people were roasting corn. They don't have lots of different types of corn there. So when you're eating that roasted corn, that's field corn. And they don't handle the food for the cows quite this. I knew a lot about it. I asked a lot of questions and looked up a bunch of stuff about animals and that. But so it's a very transactional type of thing. You may be doing some bartering to get things done. You know, I mean, like we do today, to some extent, who fixes your car, who does a good job with that? Well, they have the same types of things. So it's this guy down the street, and here's the relationship with them. Can I pay you for this in a week or so? So there's a lot of, it's just a very different way that people lived and act. Schools. We're going to spend a lot of time on schools because schools were cool. It was just amazing watching and seeing how they do things and watching the order of things. I haven't been myself into school for a while. I know I've seen kids at schools, but I haven't really been in them. But so on the left, so most of this is from Elanga School, which is up near, it's north of, it's on the east side of Mount Meru. So you can see the picture on the left, there's like 40 kids in that class. They may have 5 textbooks. So what happens is the kids are copying what they need from a textbook and then give it to the next person. And that's how they do things. This is not the government school. This is one of the sponsored schools that we have. It costs kids about $1,000 a year to go there, which is quite a bit of money there. And that includes a room and board. So it sounds like a great deal, but it's kind of difficult. We were there on a Monday, and down on the bottom left, this young lady found out about 2 hours before we were there that we're going to be in English today. So normally that's on Wednesdays. She goes, that's fine. Well, she preached for 5 minutes. So, I mean, when you talk about communications and fluency, you could have conversations with a lot of the older kids and definitely with the teachers, because they really did a lot of things in English. And there's another song there, but I'm going to go against that. So, yeah, you know I like music too. So. So now this school is a different school. This school is way north. It's listed on the map as Tinga Tinga, which is almost outside of the northern region of the diocese. And these kids, so this is all a cappella, and they're out swinging and moving and dancing. And actually, we should play this one because I like it. So being further north, they're also more traditional Maasai than some of the other folks. So there's 2 or 3 main tribes, but Maasai seem to be the dominant tribe throughout Tanzania. And you'll see in a couple of minutes here, I think, and when you look at the kids, the only way I could tell, and I talked to other people from our group, which one were boys and which one were girls, was skirts and pants. That was it. Their hair is all very, very nicely styled. So,
You fit in?
sorry.
You fit in?
Some ways. So at this church was the first time that I had kids coming up and going, You have hair on your arms.
So you said room and board, so they live at the school?
They live at school, yeah. They could go home on the weekends if they wanted to, but they didn't necessarily have to.
Is
And-
this just for wealthier people, or?
Well, or the family would say, here's how I get enough, here's what's important, I want my kid to go on to school. So this was a seminary type school, so it would teach them, so religion was definitely a part of it, but then they also would have the opportunity to try to become pastors or do other things. And they also had science labs in there, et cetera. So it was, I mean, they had a decent education. And actually, that school had a telescope. So we get different things go on within our synod as well, and somebody has an idea, and then they raise a lot of money to get this telescope. Well, we went out there to look at the telescope, and we were the first people ever to use this. They set up tents to eat at. Well, we had a hailstorm, so we didn't get to look there. But what was cool is we were able to sit with some of the teachers. And as I'm sitting with the teachers, so I read history, and I'm explaining, I'm reading about the Roosevelts. She goes, oh. I said, which ones? I said, well, Teddy and FDR. She goes, oh, well, which one of those did the Marshall Plan? I went, so, I mean, that's how much they knew, and I was just really impressed with that. So this is a different school now that we were at, and this school was set up for trades. And this school was to say, what we want to teach you as an individual is how to be able to do things on yourself. So when you get done, you're going to have the confidence to be able to set up your own shop. And you could set up your own sewing shop, so you become a tailor. And they were making things and selling things right there at the school. So those of you that sew, so what I haven't said before is electricity is not always consistent. Those are all treadle machines. And that's all we saw when we were driving by, and you'd see somebody who had a tailor shop, he had an old treadle machine. There were some singers there, most of them were Chinese versions. In the center, so these guys were learning how to graph on Excel and develop that. And you can see that there's plenty of computers there. Not. Anywhere between 3 to 5 kids were on one piece of equipment. Which reminded me, I wish they had told me before I had left, because the computer at sale, they said, we got this brick here, it doesn't do anything. So they have a laptop that doesn't work, and had they told me a week before, I probably could have done something about it. And then here on the right, so these are 3 of the teachers, and actually, this is Pastor BC, who is in South Milwaukee, who has relatives here, and she's explaining to him, the kids about her family. Sorry?
In the phone, they get.
Yeah, so she was showing pictures of her family on the phone to them.
Yeah, so do they have like Wi-Fi or?
Depending on where you are, yes. So the rest house had Wi-Fi. Where else did we have Wi-Fi? We had Wi-Fi at, when we were out on safari, we had Wi-Fi at those places. There was pretty decent cell coverage, but I generally kept my phone on airplane mode, so I didn't pay any attention to that.
Interesting.
But they have, it's expensive for them to use Wi-Fi, so WhatsApp is our common form of communications, and we're communicating a lot with people from Salem right now, which is great. So we have a lot of things going on. Here we go. Food. So lots of food, lots all the time. Like I said, everything was buffet other than one meal, and so rice is a prevalent thing. Bananas, prevalent. And bananas are not bananas. Who knew? I didn't. They have sweet bananas, so there's some little ones like that. They had the regular big ones that we have, but I hardly saw those. But the other ones we had was starchy. So it kind of tasted like potato. And so you could get those, and they would either they might fry them a little bit. Sunflower oil is the predominant oil that they have there, because they have sunflowers. And a little bit of salt, and you think it's almost like a French fry a little bit. And they would also cook them in with dishes, the stews with chicken and stuff. Always had, I can't think of a meal that there wasn't watermelon at. They also have pineapple, mango, lots of fruit, and then lots of vegetables. So Alexander, good example of when you don't have a lot, so you're just getting prepared foods. He said, I ate more fruits and vegetables on this trip than I have eaten in the last 4 years. And more food and more food. So on the right, a rice paddy, so they were doing those things by hand. On the left, so one of the big things to celebrate when we have guests is to cook a goat. Well, so they had, everyone was warning us about this up front. Well, I've eaten goat before, so it wasn't a big deal, but most of the goats that I had were cabrito in Mexico, only about, little ones. These were big ones. And so that was a regular deal. We probably had 6 or 7 of those while we were there. And basically they would cook those, and then they'd be cutting up pieces, and then they'd bring to a table, here's a plate full of them with toothpicks, and then you take some. And I'll tell you more goat stories in a couple minutes.
Mostly drank the juice, or, you didn't drink
Bottled
their
water. Bottled water, yeah. And I don't think they drink much of their water either.
And was bottled water?
They knew we were coming, so they knew we were coming, plus all the transportation vehicles they would have bottled water at. The other thing, maybe it's on the previous slide. So the other thing they had a lot of was soda. So they would have what our cans are 350 mils, and so regular Coke, 350 mils is 140 calories. So here's a half-liter bottle, 500 mils, with 580 calories in it. Want to talk about sugar? It was there. But it was good. You don't often see pineapple or passion fruit soda. So those are pretty tasty. And then the juices they would make with the bottled water as well. Okay. Hospital orphanage. So and this is just a small picture. So there's a hospital at Ingoranga that we were at, which is just up the road from Usa River. That road was paved because it was going up to the hospital. And they want to grow the hospital to move from a regional hospital to a district hospital. So they've been investing in the hospital. They have some big issues there. So this new building is a whole new maternity wing. And so their lives and cultures are moving in a very different direction than ours. So yesterday I heard Menominee Falls doesn't do deliveries anymore at the hospital there because supply and demand, right? So we're going somewhere else. Here they built a whole new wing, probably can handle 10 or 15 different people. So you can see it's new. They're building beds while we were there, putting them together. So they have a regular hospital there with a very old X-ray machine. They're adding on here, and they have inconsistent electricity. They have an old generator there, and we've been told that we can't replace the generator, or we have to replace it. We can't just do parts. So there's work going on within the Synod to see what can we do to try to help with this. They also had an orphanage here, I don't have any pictures of the kids, and I think that was kind of intentional on my part. But the kids were, very friendly. One of them needed to go. So from this room, you go up a couple of steps, and that's where they were taking their naps. And one little girl was coming out, and I just held my hand out there, and she grabbed my hand. We just walked up there and got up to her nap area. And so you can see how they were taking care of the clothes there. They were everything's hanging outside to be cleaned and dried. And of course, when we're there, we had tea, so more food. So again, it plentiful, lots of fresh things. That on the top, on the right, so they would have this kind of a dough that they would fill with ground beef and onions that they would fry. And I'm way over time. Thank you. All right, Sail Weekend 2. So we ate again before the meeting, and then we had a meeting with the partnership committee and some of the elders. So there was 17 people in there, and we had the opportunity really to review where Sail was at as a church and what was going on with them. Here's another song, but this one you know. Some of the things, so we had a good meeting with them, which was excellent. We had goat when we were there, believe it or not. And I don't know, some of you may recognize Thrivent t-shirts. So we took a bunch of Thrivent t-shirts over to them, and this is the whole group as we were sitting there. So the goat is, it's a big honor to make the goat and have the goat, and then, okay, Andy, here's your goat. So there's a standard protocol for, well, thank you very much for this goat. This is a wonderful thing, and because it's so wonderful, I want to share it with all of you. And so then they start cutting it up, and everybody gets to eat some goat. And if you're getting the right pieces, it's not too bad. So there is a school there. So this is the school that Michael went to. And so on the top left, that's the kitchen for the school. So if the kids had enough money, they would get their rice and beans and maybe some chicken mixed in within that that they would make in this big pot to serve to them. If they didn't have the money, then they went home for school. This is a public school. So you can see what the inside of a classroom looks like and what the grounds look like. So just you kind of think about sending your kids to a place like that. Kind of interesting, right? And what do they learn, and what can they learn, and how can they advance? And this is I think the advantages of some of the sponsored schools, but it takes money to do those things. I know you're thinking about it. Thank you. So, kitchen angels. So here, that's the women that work in our kitchen. So the kitchen angels here have a little bit different job and a different level of work. So all of the food that I showed you that was prepared at Selah was made in this kitchen. So you can see the outside of the kitchen with the wood there. Here's the inside of the kitchen. They're cooking on the fire. They're heating the water. So when we had coffee and tea, that's how they heated the water up for that. Here's how they made the dishes. And then that's how they clean the dishes.
Did you mention that she was chopping wood for the fires?
Oh yeah, that was for the fire, yeah. And I think I might be yeah, so that's that.
Wow.
And then I know you wanted to see the other things.
Do, but I like decaf. And I use, he makes it. sides. And, you can buy ground, you can buy it by beans, you can buy even the little pots.
Well, come on now.
While Andy's working
Yeah.
on finding that next slide, some of you pass this quite regularly. This was one of the gifts that we received from Selah. It's hand carved, of course, and it's spectacular. It's just beautiful. So that is a treasure that we have. There's also in our chapel a cross, giraffe candlesticks and some elephant candlesticks. So right around the corner, there's some neat artifacts there.
I'll try to go fast. So we went to 3 different parks during the time that we were there. One was on our way to the north, and then we went to 2 other parks on safari with intention. This is Arusha Park. This is what it looks like from the outside. So if I was to say where Selah Parish is, it would be just south of the peak of the mountain there. And sorry, I'm always in the maps and stuff and looking to see where I am and where I've been. So that's there. And again, the hospital is in Karanga, is where the hospital was, and the just east of there is where the coffee facilities are. I'm making you work, aren't I? So, actually, I think this moves. So we first got into the park. We couldn't have been in there for more than 30 minutes, and you start running into stuff like this, and you go, oh my goodness. So this next section is just about animals, which I figured, everyone wants to know, well, did you see any animals? So a couple things. I did not include pictures of flowers, and I did not include many pictures of birds. It's important because one of the people that was in our vehicle, especially when we were north on safari, liked birds, and she probably had, she had a book, she must have knocked off at least 20 birds that we saw during the course of the trip, and not your typical birds either. So we saw, there's some type of an antelope, we would say deer on the left, baboons around, warthogs, and again, this is Arusha National Park, so it's relatively close to where we were. Oh, please. So this, I like this, the picture on the left. What I like about it is you notice the water buffalo up front, and then you go back a little bit, you see the warthogs coming into the picture, and you go back a little bit further, and there's the zebras, and you go back a little bit further, and there's the giraffes. So you can see all of them in one frame, and I don't know how many times I thought, am I in Jurassic Park? It literally, that's what I thought, because of the way that the animals are moving and stuff, and I went, well, that's where they got all that from the movies. There is a bird in there, because I thought it was cool the way that in the center, you could just barely see its beak, and that there's a little shiny green section on its wing, and we just kind of caught it as we're driving by. And there's all sorts of different kinds of antelope throughout the parks that we see.
How large is that park?
That park, well, you can see here, Arusha National Park. It's probably, you had to ask me that one. Because one of the other parks I knew was about the size of Milwaukee County. I didn't actually look up that one. But I can tell you that Tanzania is bigger than Texas, to give a perspective of the country. So we went from, here's Arusha. You can barely see Usa River here. And then we went west on this road. You can see Karatu, just left of the Lake Manyara Park. That's where we stayed the first night, and then we're going up to Ngorongoro crater, which is a very famous thing, and then that whole conservation area gets us up toward the Serengeti. So this is where we stayed, when we were up there, we were staying back in, regular kind of accommodations. So we were staying at the Farm of Dreams, and you can see as we're entering the park, you had to roll your windows up because those baboons were pretty aggressive there about getting, trying to get food out of the vehicles as they came past. I just had to take, so what you can't get from the perspective of this picture is how steep it is. Because if you went over that edge, you'd be done. So we were up somewhere at about 8,000 feet at that point in time. So this is a crater. So what had happened is this volcano had just kind of collapsed. And there is a body of water down in there. And pretty much all of the animals will end up in there at some point in time with the exception of giraffes.
Where did they hurt?
They would head other places, I guess. So, example of the lovely dusty roads that we were traveling along, and so this at this point we started to find more of the animals were kind of hanging out together. So the wildebeest were getting ready to start congregating to start their migrations, and there was zebras all over the place.
Did you see the migration of the wildebeest?
Well, there's pictures of them when you see, like, here's these black dots on the horizon, and so there was thousands of them. They were just starting to get together for that, yeah. So yeah, you could get some pretty close pictures of giraffes. Here you can see the wildebeest on that hillside there starting to get together. And actually those two young giraffes were kind of hanging out together there, and you don't normally see them that close together, and I don't think Mom liked it. Go on. So Maasai, they are prevalent throughout the country, and they were there. I'm not going to play that music. One of the dances that they do as part of their ritual is this jump dance. So the one that jumps the highest is the one that is looking to get married. And then these are the huts that they live in. So these are made of three things. So they have their thatched roof, they have their sticks, and then those sticks are covered with dung. So the dung huts that you may or may not have heard of, that's where they live. Pretty dark in there. But this is the only, I had to include one just to include one, but this is the only one I have of them. They literally were scattered throughout the area, all the way through. And you could, yeah. Did that start working? So, just to let you know, so not everything is easy when you get there. So on the left, and that's actually a video of a dung beetle. So that's probably about as big as the end of my thumb. Apparently some are bigger, and they roll pieces of dung or turds around in order to attract a mate. I just had to take a picture. This is the only time I experienced it, but I know that some of my female counterparts experienced this a lot more than we did. These are a lot of the toilets there are like that. So when you're going to come with me next time, you need to be prepared to squat. There's the dung guy rolling around. So.
How romantic, he's trying to put in there.
Yeah, run away, huh? Come on.
Like the little hose there, is that on the left?
Yeah. I can show this one. So,
Running is broken back, walking in sideways.
so that's one.
They got long legs.
And you can see the the beasts. Come on, catch up.
It's got a baby with it.
Yeah.
Browning is broken back.
Yes. Cool.
So then, so you're out driving around and maybe you're on a trail, and so our guys had video or walkie-talkies to talk to each other. They said, well, we're going over here. Well, we probably went about a half a mile across, dead-headed across some land because there was a couple of other vehicles there. And this is how you find the animals that are there. There might be a video of this as well, but you can see the mother and the two cubs for the jaguars. And there's some pictures where it almost looks like they're being herded by these vehicles. And so I was traveling with a woman from Sheboygan, and I said, this reminds me of Lake Michigan fishing. Someone finds something and all of a sudden all the ships are around it. So, anyway. Yeah. So, I mean, you can see how far away the vehicles are from the animals. It's just incredible that, you know, they're not spooked. But it happens so often that they just get used to it. So lots of these long four-legged beasts around. So the one in the center is the impala. It's a different kind of an antelope on the left. There's like 8 or 10 different kind of antelope that are there. And then there's always fun when you're safariing around, when you find some water that you're trying to get through, and how do you do that? So, you know, you gotta watch the other guys to see if they're gonna make it or not, which they did, so. Yeah. It's going a lot slower. And we're off. So same kind of things with the lions. I think I took all the video ones out, but you can see how they're almost corralled by the different safari vehicles. We were at the low season as far as vehicles there. I can't imagine what it's like if you're there in June, July, August when the schools are out and there's all sorts of people around. This pride probably had, I was going to say 8 lions in it. And you can see the old guy has taken a nap in by the trees here on the right. But there's, in that top one I know is a video, but you can see there's 3 there, and there's another one there, and then in this bush, straight up off the right edge, there's another 1 or 2 in there. So they were just napping and getting ready for the night. Then that night we stayed at another camp. It was so these were tents. They were built up on platforms, very nice. You can see what the beds look like on the inside. They had like a meeting room, bar type area, and then they had another room where they had the restaurant. Of course, that night the power went out while we were at the restaurant, so they're getting flashlights out and stuff. And then some of you probably saw this at the previous, but in order to get hot water into your, and they had flush toilets in each one of these, and to get hot water, that bucket that's hanging up in the air, they would pull that down, replace it with hot water, so you'd have to schedule your shower. They'd roll it up there, and then you open the water in the shower, let it run for a little bit, because what was ever in the pipe. And this was the only night I put a blanket on. So when we were there, we're probably at about 5,000 feet, and it was cool at night. But no open food in your container. Nice. And a couple times during the night, you heard some sounds, and like, okay, how far away is that? And they said, well, sound travels here, so they might not be right next door. So. So I said no birds, sorry, there's birds. So we've got some vultures in the tree, just kind of hanging out, and I think about cartoons. And then here is a picture of one ostrich, and so it's, I think, my bird time. So it's time for lunch, we don't share, so these hyenas had found some type of an antelope, and weren't playing with it. I'm not going to show you the video because of time, but they're not sharing. Okay. And so where we were, so again, this is a much bigger, I think it's an Elrond is the name of that antelope there on the left. This was our driver, very skilled. I mean, when he saw a bird, he knew what kind of bird that was, and they don't all look the same. That was pretty amazing, and so we were into the Serengeti a little bit for when we were there. And as we went back out over the crater, then we saw our first elephant and a nice big water buffalo just hunkering down the road. So then we went to Karangiri National Park. So there are some monkeys there, but you go there to see elephants, and we did. When I talked to other people that have been there several times, they could not believe how many elephants we've seen. And the number was like hundreds. Now, it's not just elephants, and sorry, here's another bird picture. So that's like 6 or 7 ostriches all lined up, moving along together. And people were like, we hadn't seen that before either. And then some more impalas and other. Here we go. And now the elephants. So we saw a lot of elephants, and so one of the things on the bottom left picture, you can see on the second one in on the top, on the left-hand side, look below it, there's a little baby there. And so I couldn't get a better picture of it than that, because it always seemed like that baby was protected. But there was a lot of, we saw a lot of elephants there, and I mean, you could hear them eating. We were that close. Thank you. But this, not this one. So when you're looking down, and the other thing I didn't show a lot of is I kind of like scenery, so I have a lot of scenery photos. But this one, with the scenery, you can see how many elephants are out there on the plain. And it just was amazing to see so many of these beasts. Then this old bull didn't like us. On the left. And you can see we're on the road, but we're going to move. And I didn't show a lot of trees and stuff, but there was a couple things that caught my eye. So these trees are actually hollow on the inside, the way that they grow. And you can see how big it is. So here's Pastor Nafi and I, we couldn't go around it this way. So that was a huge one. This other one with all the elephants below it is called a sausage tree. So it looks like there's literally like sausages hanging from the tree. And then the right side, sorry about that, I was going to stop before that. The right side is a termite hill. Yep. And now we're back at the diocese office, and guess what? There's more singing, and this is the close of the show, and I'm only 9 minutes late, so not bad. So it was, I did the safari part, that's not why I went. I thought it was, having done it now, that was really cool, but seeing the people and meeting the people and talking with them about and seeing how they live and what they do, to me, it was a really incredible journey. And I have loads of other stories about host family and the husband getting sick and the wife not speaking very good English, and I'm on the phone with their sons and who are grown up and living other places, and now she's texting me and stuff, so, but we have, I think, the start of a really good relationship with the people at Selah, and I'm looking forward to continuing that, and would encourage anyone who is at all interested to talk to me about it.
Andy, thank you, this has been terrific. One question, you may have referenced it when I was out, but the coffee, you told one story that we're gonna share with the congregation about the boy.
Yep.
How the difference that this coffee that we buy, how it makes a difference, because you don't have to be part of Holy Cross to buy Mayor coffee,
Right,
so.
right. So, yeah, so we sell it here, typically we sell it about once a month. We are working, so there is a Specialty Coffee Growers Association on the Nehru side that the farmers are a part of, and that's who we buy the coffee from. So we're working with them. So there is a training institute for the farmers that they get education on how better to plant and take care of their crops. We are working with them to give them better coffee trees, so they will regularly replace their trees now in order to be able to have something that deals with the drought and diseases better. And I think so the way that we pay the farmers gives them premiums compared to what they normally would get. And that's giving them the opportunity for better lives. So it really works out very well. And there's lots of opportunities with the coffee, and we sell it right here.
I think our synod is over $1 million has been, but it's been an amazing difference.
Yeah, and there's lots of things that we're starting to do more creatively with the coffee. So I've been working with the project for a while. They do things where if there's kids that want to do fundraisers with that, we will sell that coffee at our cost that they can then make a profit with, and to do that as a fundraiser for their schools. And they've done that for a couple of schools in Waukesha now, and those opportunities are there for us here as well. So and the investment into the facilities. So I showed the processing centers and how they're getting newer equipment to be able to run more efficiently and effectively. So,
Great.
yeah.
Thank you.